All right, we are live.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the second of four panels for our 2020 Rev.io Summit before the Summit. Unprecedented event for us, but one that we're really excited to have you all be a part of. This was, of course, supposed to be our live client summit week. This would have been the great event that we would do every year, based out of the in this case would have been the W Hotel Midtown in Atlanta here. Not canceled, simply deferred to January is the plan right now, but we didn't want to miss the opportunity, given this become an annual tradition for our client partner base, to have an event this year. So we've put this together, and we're very excited that you all were able to take time out of your busy schedules to join us here today. So this panel is entitled Supporting Customers in Challenging Economic Times. And we're sort of working our way through panel by panel key topics for things that we help our clients with, and as they're thinking about their business going forward. Those of you who've joined us today, and the panel that you would have just heard that Evan moderated was about sales and marketing in this environment. And as we think about supporting customers in challenging economic times, that was a really kind of a deliberate decision of ours to pose it that way, because I don't think it's really amazing to kind of take a step back and think about for basically anybody who is around and engaged, not just in the business world, but society in general, what an impactful kind of a thing that we're living through right now, probably the biggest that any of us has ever seen. So much of what we had heard about, particularly in March and April, when the widespread nature of this, literally and figuratively, was becoming so evident, was really an inspiration of a lot of our clients in terms of the way that they were reaching out to their customers and their communities to support both. So we wanted to have this panel to learn a little bit more about some of those lessons, as well as the perspectives that our clients and our partners have in terms of strengthening their relationships with their customers through this, but ultimately making both their customers and themselves stronger in the long run. Because at some point we will be out of this, we will be through this, hopefully sooner rather than later. And the lessons that are learned and taken from this are really going to stand the test of time, we think. So I'm very excited to be joined by a couple of leaders of one of our clients and then one of our actually key vendor partners. So I'm going to go just first to the left side of my screen, directly to me here on my mosaic. So Matt from Marco, do you want to give a quick introduction to yourself and to your company?
Yeah. Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. Matt Kanatsky here. I'm the Vice President of IT Sales at Marco Technologies. We are a full-service technology solution provider, a managed service provider, and IT security provider. I've been with the company just over 5 years in various roles, but I lead up our sales operations.
Great. Thank you, Matt. And Sarah, do you want to give a quick introduction as well?
Yes, thank you. And thank you for having me today, Patrick. So my name is Sarah Torville. I'm the CEO and founder of Media Frenzy Global. We are a technology PR agency. We work with a lot of companies which create SaaS-based platforms, including Rev.io. So we help Rev.io really drive thought leadership for the company with the media, so trade media and business media too. So it's great to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. And it has just occurred to me that I may have neglected to introduce myself at the beginning of the panel. So if you don't know me, I'm Patrick Elliott. I'm the VP of Marketing here at Rev.io. The choice of our panel members in this panel, and each of them were really sort of deliberately thought out based upon the experiences we know that our partners are working with in their areas of expertise. So I think Matt with Marco, just the wide variety of different business units that are part of the overall Marco umbrella, I think allow for a pretty solid perspective in terms of how you've supported your clients, because they're taking one or more services from you in a wide variety of different areas, and certainly the impact based upon this pandemic has been uneven, I guess, across your different business lines. And then for Sarah, what was so interesting in terms of having you be part of this panel was, you're not directly in the industry, but you're supporting tech companies, communications companies, service providers, et cetera, in a wide variety of different areas to help tell their story and get their message out in both great times and times of struggle that we're in right now. And for a little bit more perspective for those that might not know, if you've seen in 2020 Rev.io take a more forward look into the marketplace in terms of talking about, writing about, really giving the perspective that we have in terms of how sophisticated billing can help clients and members of this community grow their revenue more efficiently. The Media Frenzy Global team has been a critical partner in helping us do that. So wanted to make sure that Sarah, your expertise was captured here. So so why don't we just start right there in terms of the impact on customer and partner base. So Matt, do you want to talk a little bit about what you guys at Marco have seen in terms of the impact on your client base and how you've been helping support said clients?
Sure. Yeah. We have the benefit of having a really diverse product portfolio as well as a really diverse client portfolio. So we weren't product verticalized and we weren't customer verticalized. So that allowed us to see and interact in a lot of different angles on how this impacted. So at the same time, we watched some of our business units drop off. We had a large spike in other business units. So for example, we offer copier and print services and managed print services. Now, obviously, we saw a drop off of utilization and supplies and repairs as everybody left the offices that had the large volume machines in them, and they were still sitting there on service contracts. However, those same customers were contacting us to rapidly ramp up and implement IT-based services such as VPNs or PCs and webcams or conferencing collaboration solutions, phone systems. So we actually had to quickly pivot technical resources. We had to scurry through training and basically restructure the way that we took service orders from customers so that we could promptly respond and also get through the workload, because you run your business on KPIs and metrics and analytics that you're used to, and the trend line started spiking all over the place. And at the same time, we were dealing with the same challenges of furloughs or layoffs or capacity issues, and trying to navigate that where they had very immediate needs. Now, what I would say the benefit for our organization was that diversity. It allowed us to pivot resources, focus on something else, and quickly get that done and implemented. It also will have a long-standing impact on our business because it gave us a chance to look at doing things differently because we had to. And once we went through that, we've actually clung on to some of that and held some of those processes as a standard now.
And I think you actually went right to what a follow-up question was going to be for me, is thinking about how much of this becomes really the sustainable long-term way of doing things, and sort of the pivot of the way you guys do services. If I'm hearing you correctly, it sounds like there's going to be a lot of sustainability and ultimately kind of make your service department a little bit more nimble and effective in the future. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, absolutely. We changed our implementation process into a more of an agile process versus like a first in, first out, because we were having a lot of small projects contending for large projects, and they were waiting in line, and the sense of urgency was vastly different. So we actually subdivided that group, reorganized technical resources, and created a fast in, fast out process. So we went from getting those orders and turning them around within a week to turning them around within 4 hours, same day service for our customers, because that's just where the demand was. And because of that, we've now restructured those teams and our order intake process and created new segmentation of orders, so we could always act that way. We can always deliver fast service on the seemingly more simple or less complex projects.
That's great. That's great. Sarah, from your perspective, it's a little bit different because it's not necessarily on the service side, but you have a kind of a diverse client base for your media and PR services. So I would say that the way I would ask this question to you is, how did you kind of change the way that you coach and advise your clients through this period in terms of their engagement with the marketplace and their communication strategy?
Yeah, so reality is, the way that we work with clients is we put PR plans together. The PR plan when COVID hit basically meant any existing PR plan, literally, in many respects, we kind of shredded it and started again. it was very important as an agency, always, strategically thinking about what's the right thing for our clients, that, we started to think differently and find out really what was most important for our clients, customers, to hear from them. And so, we reacted on all of our clients. We have about 25 clients that we work on an ongoing basis. And literally we had to kind of, get on the phones really quickly, utilize Zoom, and prepare a very different looking PR plan. A lot of it was focused on, what were they doing? What was the brand doing to try and help their ecosystem? So whether that was community outreach, what they were doing that, whether they were changing their model, what was it which required some storytelling and a narrative around it, because business as usual couldn't continue. So whereas normally we would be moving forward on thought leadership initiatives, we really had to be very, very sensitive to that business has changed and that people are still trying to figure out how they're going to maneuver in this very difficult situation. So, we encourage brands not to go silent either. Some of our clients literally did not know what to do. And so going silent, in our opinion, is not an option. It's like, now is the time for your customers to hear from you. And we've done some very interesting research, which just shows the power of the brands that communicated during COVID-19. It's like the ones, the numbers were phenomenal. They were high in the, I think it was like 45% of US consumers said that if they heard from a brand during that time, they were more inclined to still buy from them going forwards. Whereas the ones which went quiet was really causing people to feel like the brand was not healthy and that they would not survive this this pandemic. So, as partners, with our clients, our advice was, yes, you got to keep communicating, but we have to change the story and we have to look at the narrative that best serves your clients well. So it was a very interesting time. Still is an interesting time.
Still is, right. Do you, as a follow-up to that, do you think that some of the hesitancy amongst certain clients of yours to not communicate was driven by a not knowing what to say, or was it more of a it almost feels inappropriate for me to try to be, marketing and selling or putting out a brand message during this extreme time?
It was a bit of the two, to be honest with you. It was, you don't want to be an ambulance chaser, as some of our clients felt like, this isn't, they would say, this isn't related to us. Like, why would we have a conversation about it? But it is related, because at the end of the day, it's, you have an ecosystem, you have customers, you have suppliers, you have partners. It impacts everybody. So it's not like you're ambulance chasing. You're literally, you can provide solutions on how business can continue, because at the end of the day, we all need the economy to somehow continue. And so we were just, carefully finding narratives that worked within the situation. And some brands which really felt like they didn't have a narrative, then we would look to what they were doing in the community. Some of them will really embrace their local community. And so even that, like sharing news, not about what they're doing, but more about how people are benefiting, in this difficult time, and just trying to solve these problems for people and working with the community to do that. There was a whole variety of different stories told in that area. And so, sometimes actions speak much louder than words. So we did encourage brands to go out and be part of your community. And it's not like we're going to talk about it in PR per se, but it's just part of your story during this difficult time. And your customers need to hear that you're embracing it and helping. And so, yes, and we put it together actually still on our website right now. We have a COVID communications toolkit. And one of them, the most interesting one, I think, is the decision tree. It really helps a brand to look at, it takes you through these decisions of, what can you and can't you talk about? And it served really our customers very well.
That's excellent.
Patrick, if I
go ahead,
if I could, I'll add on to that just from the perspective of sales, right? Because sales is a big part of your marketing and branding too. What they say represents your organization. And there was similar feelings, at a salesperson level of apprehension of, soliciting customers in a time like this is a very touchy subject. They don't want to hear from you, or they don't want to talk about this, or they want to think about projects out, out ahead of them. And, we had to urge and encourage our sales team and remind them that you're offering a truly essential service. Like, technology is core to navigating this challenge. And, you're not doing your job if you allow customers to brush you off and go, we got this, we're fine, we got to figure it out. I mean, I think we all know they don't, right? And we've spent our lives, our careers in these industries to be experts and actually help people. So it truly brought some relevance and some, allowed them to take their expertise and leverage it in a really meaningful, positive way to help these businesses navigate, this turning their workforce upside down. And then, coming back around now that we've enabled you to work remote, hey, we got to refocus in on security. We got to refocus in on how you're sharing and collaborating. But you have to do it with empathy. You have to do it with actually understanding their business, caring about who they are, who their clients are, who they're serving, and truly do it from a position of helping enable them sustain their business, maintain making money, and keep the economy running. And so, I just wanted to chime in. The salespeople needed the same kind of pep talk, because it's tough trying to get in touch with people. Everybody's stressed out and everybody is dealing with this. However, we're here to provide a service to make sure that they can function and make sure that they can interact with their clients or their communities.
Absolutely. And to both of your points, I would say that, in Rev.io's case, some of what we were really focused on in March and April as we were trying to get our hands on this whole situation from a marketing standpoint, certainly with MFG's help and coaching, we really took a dual approach for a time where we were really shouting out the industry for one thing. And to your point, Matt, about, these are technologies that are actually going to help move the economy forward, as you put it. And we're proud to be a part of this industry and serve this industry through our billing and back office solutions. And we also had a lot of great examples from our client base as well. As I'm sure many of you know, we have our ACT Top Awards, and one of our values is caring for employees, clients, and the community. And we really emphasize the community aspect to this. And we actually gave kind of honorary ACT Top Awards to some of our clients. We heard some wonderful stories from clients coming into our client success team about, how do I turn off or how do I basically give a couple months without putting out bills to my restaurant customers, because we know how much they're struggling. We loved hearing that, for one thing, just because it shows the heart of our client base, and thinking about, we're all in this together to some degree, and we need to make sure that our customer base, the economy, et cetera, the communities that we serve, all that stuff ties together. And it was wonderful to be able to share those stories and communicate them, to your point, Sarah. Matt, to that end about, especially, give the restaurant example, did you have any other kind of programs or approaches specifically to perhaps your most hard hit customers, especially in the March, April, May timeframe, that you guys had at Marco that you'd want to mention?
Well, we've seen it from all angles. We weren't very heavy in retail or hospitality, so we kind of didn't have a lot of engagement there, but we have a ton of education customers. And that's been tumultuous, right? It was a hard stop. And, those are large users of print volumes and paper and audio video solutions. It kind of got to a hard stop. And then there was an introduction of grant money. And then, the what I'll call somewhat of a wandering strategy of you don't really know what district's going to do what. So you have to stay in constant contact, figure out their plan, and then figure out what technology solutions that we can help empower them for distance learning, hybrid learning, whatever it may be. But, so those customers, our education customers, were impacted fairly dramatically, from a hard stop to we don't know to we're structuring a plan now. And, it's created very interesting new opportunities for both of us mutually. It allowed us to really amplify our audio visual, physical security, and mass notification type platforms, for example. Those were always things that were peripherally there. Maybe they'll get funding or not. Maybe we'll implement them or not. And again, rapidly to the top of the list. We need them now. They need to be here by fall, right? And so the same thing, we had to pivot, restructure some of our resources to be able to deliver at that level of capacity. And, proud to say we did such, and we're delivering audio enhancement solutions all over the place for these clients. And similar to like you were talking about with billing, we did deferred payments, we did special leasing programs. We actually even formed a team in which we call the market readiness team, where we actually went behind the scenes and started preparing for things that we could do differently because of this change. How could we come out of this and just look totally different and offer services totally different? And one of those things that we came to was allowing us to bundle or combine services together to lessen the load of one particular product, and a customer gets more value out of us of the mass of payments. And that's a little ambiguous, but the point being, if you only buy copiers, well, that's really all we have to work with, right? But if we start bundling together voice and connectivity and copiers and IT services, it allows us to right-size that package. It also allows us to find other savings that aren't there when you're just trying to reduce one service. So we actually structured some programs like that, and it was all built for customer response and to benefit the customer. We had always wanted to get to the wonderful bundle and put it all together and bill it on one thing. Thanks, Rev.io, by the way. You guys help us do that.
Thanks for the plug.
But yeah, I mean, hey, it gave us the opportunity to sit back and go, well, we got some time on our hands to actually figure something out here. Let's come out with something different. The challenge is sitting right in front of us. And it helped us navigate that conversation because, as you can imagine, it was, hey, we're not using our printers. We should just get rid of all of them, right? The challenge is, yeah, but if they all go back to school, you're going to start using them again. And we got to restructure again, right? So we came up with flexible new contract programs, flexible deployment methodologies, as well as combination of different services and tying them together. And it really helped us serve those customers and come up with new solutions. So, that was, I would say that's been one we've navigated. That's been the most prevalent, mostly because of all of the activity with the distance learning, hybrid learning, the audio enhancements in classrooms, all of those upgrades. There's just so much activity there that it's taken a lot of mind share for our organization, and we've been delivering strongly on that.
That's great. That's great examples there. I want to pivot a little bit now, a little bit more towards internally for both of your organizations, specifically asking about kind of day-to-day practices, operational changes, et cetera, that you all have implemented that in response to the pandemic and the lockdowns that you think will set you up for even better service in the future. So maybe Sarah, if we would start there. What is MFG doing differently that you see continuing into the future?
Well, I think what has been very interesting during this time is that, so normally PR is regarded more as a second cousin. You have, a lot of brands look at marketing as being, investing dollars in ad spend and things like that. And kind of PR comes second because it's more of a long-term goal. So what has happened is that has flipped considerably because brand marketers and head of PR teams have realized that, we are all feeling a little bit sensitive right now. We're all at home. We want to be inspired. We want to believe in storytelling. We want to hear of stories of success. And so PR has literally risen to the forefront and is becoming, the amount of new business growth we've had as an agency because of PR being that number one storyteller right now. So that's been interesting because not that business wasn't good before, but it's just become a bigger priority. So what happened and what's still happening is a lot of people, they just want project work. So we've had, actually it's been really, this is an area we hadn't worked in before, which was the health IT space, particularly the mental health space. So we had several brands in that space, literally when COVID hit, who had been spending money on marketing, but realized that they had such a powerful story to tell, around mental health, especially in the workplace, and how they were helping to really solve those problems. And every day there was a different story hitting the media about mental health. And there still is to this very day as we're dealing with staying at home. And so we had to just change the way that we work, our mechanics, like normally, and as Rev.io would know, when we work with a client, normally it's a 6-month, 12-month arrangement, and this happens in the first month, and we take our time to do the strategy and we do research. Well, there wasn't time. It's like I think we onboarded one mental health app client in literally 24 hours. So they were onboarded. We just, did a much lighter touch on how we would normally start off with a relationship. But, they wanted media coverage that week. It's like we had to just literally double down in every effort possible and, and just literally try and understand the media angles we were going to take to market and just move forward. So we've just kind of had to we've created a much lighter touch PR program for those type of brands, which, they wanted 3 months and they wanted to see some results, and that's what we do. So we have a lot of projects like that right now, where, they don't want to commit to long term, but they need the value services of a PR firm to really help tell a narrative, which you can't tell through advertising. It's real storytelling right now. So, and it's about making the customer the hero every time. And so that's really what we're doing.
Love that. Great example. And it's interesting because it kind of, I talked at the top of the hour about, it definitely is about serving customers, but it's also about how are you making one's own business more sustainable for the future. So, I mean, do you think that the mix of sort of the long-term engagements with more project work, do you expect that that's going to continue on for you all into the future, post-pandemic, post-lockdown?
To be very honest, I think there's a difference though in a client's makeup and mindset when you look at things on a project basis than when you look at things on a longer term basis when it comes to PR. I mean, PR is a level of education is needed to understand PR, when a lot of people think PR is about driving sales, and actually PR is more like a marathon rather than a sprint. It's about reputation. It's about, seeding a prospect with an idea and letting them read about you in different places. And it doesn't always happen in a short amount of time. So I would say PR really should continue on a longer term strategic basis. We are looking at ways to kind of just provide like lighter touch PR/social media programs where there is just a bit more tangibility to it, and it's not so deep as other programs are. So we're looking. It's a little bit complicated because there's no cookie cutterness to the story you tell for one brand and the story you tell for another. They are always so different. So we're navigating that right now. But I still believe that the mindset a brand has when they look at PR longer term, we show results, every month, but 6 months, 12 months, you can really eat into the market share of your competitor. So it takes that amount of time to really show that.
Excellent. Yeah, I totally agree with you on the long-term view of things for something like PR. Matt, what about Marco? How are you guys organizing or structuring or creating processes that are different now that you expect to continue into the future?
Well, right away, we had to navigate the work from home. We had over 1,000 employees that we, activated to work from home. But that was relatively quick and easy for us. And that was, a bit of a reflection point where we went, well, yeah, easy for us to say, right? That's what we do, right? We were largely already there. That's how we worked already, anywhere from any device, anytime. Now, I would say the part we really focused on, we had the anywhere, any device, but the anytime is probably the biggest change in the employees. Knowing that now they're at home with their families, their pets, their children, and they're trying to navigate the meetings. Everybody's had the cat run through the video or the dog barking in the background, right? And understanding that that's okay, right? We don't have to harp so much on professionalism. Although we did actually have to put a stake in the ground and say, hey, we got to get rid of ball caps and t-shirts. We got to get back to button-down shirts, stuff like that. It was an interesting thing you had to navigate, right? It started getting too casual, and we had to kind of pull it back in to maintain professionalism as we're still running a business here, and that's the way we want to represent to our clients. It's kind of like that long-term marathon of PR, right? We don't want to get on calls with our clients wearing t-shirts and ball caps talking about professional security solutions. It's just not, it's too casual. So we had to kind of navigate that piece, but also when people were doing work, it started to become normal for people to get their tasks done at 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. when those were normally 2, 3, 4 o'clock items, where that might contradict with some homework they had to do, or just some outdoor time, right? Some mental health time to just go outside and get out of the basement. So we really, we kind of always accepted this, but now we really accepted anywhere, anytime, any device. If you get the workload done and you're checking the boxes, you're hitting all your performance metrics, you're serving the customers, you're serving employees, it really doesn't matter when you do that work, as long as it's getting done. So that was a big thing that we had to culturally accept. And the other thing is we offer a lot of on-site service work. And so there were some significant challenges in just being able to sustain our business while navigating all of the state mandates. And we operate in over 12 states. So everyone had different rules. And so just, our HR department did a fantastic job of navigating, communicating, letting you know, if you're in this state, here's what you need to do. If you're in this state, here's what you need to do. All types of new messaging. Now, what we adopted from that is standardized communication cadence, standardized format on that communication. Where is it coming from? Who to look for it? How do you search it? How do you archive and reference it? We had all of those things, but we had to get a lot better, a lot faster to make sure they were concise, succinct. Everybody knew where to find it, how to get to it, because we were navigating a lot of people in a lot of different places. Now, the other long-term impact is due to an interesting twist here is, we do service work on site with customers. The amount of accuracy and precision you have to have while logging your time and your tasks heightened dramatically. Well, because we have CDC guidelines, and you have to put that, I went here at 1:32 to 1:47, right? It used to be 1:30 to 1:45, right? And you have to get really specific on these things now. And that requires some different tools, some updated processes to accommodate that. And but it really forced us to move forward with our digitization efforts and our automation efforts. All these projects were underway. There were things we were already working on, but the acceleration of completion was dramatic. And they're going to continue because they're in place now, and we have our automation, and we have these processes in place. So it's made us a more efficient organization overall.
So much great stuff to unpack, Matt, out of that vignette you just had there. Couple of things that strike me as I look at my notes here. Number one is the true adoption of whenever, wherever on any device. And it's funny because this is now the second panel in a row where I think it's come up to some degree of, we're all kind of, I think Evan said, we're drinking our own champagne in the industry, because you all directly, and then us serving the industry, it's about talking about the benefits of the entire communications platform in terms of services, in terms of the hardware and devices themselves. And now that we've kind of had a live, call it a live field test ourselves, and now we see that it really does work and it can work. It almost gives a little bit more credibility to the story. And I think it should make us all very excited to be serving this industry. However, you also said the talk about standardization of the way that even wherever you are, the way that we communicate with our customers. The logging the time, I think you said it was CDC guidelines. Like, when was I actually on premises? I think, if I understood that correctly, that was interesting too. And what resonated that I think with me, and I can probably speak from my colleagues at Rev.io on that, is that we didn't have the long-term kind of structure of being so spread apart. We were forced into this very quickly in mid-March, but we've had such good discipline, I think, in terms of the way that we standardize processes and we script out our communications to our clients. And, we're following, if you will, those playbooks, and it's allowed us to really continue to provide, we hope, great service to our clients in a way that is replicable. It doesn't matter if someone is literally picking up the phone in our office or if they're on the soft phone at home or wherever. So we can certainly testify to as a seconding of what you just said in the Marco experience. It is interesting though too about the time perspective, about the I might be doing something at 9 o'clock that I would have done at 2 o'clock or 9 p.m. versus 2 p.m. Just because I can, but I also, I might have to. I might ask you a follow-up now of, how have you guys from sort of a coaching perspective of your team, helped kind of cope through the creep of hours within a day, and all of a sudden I'm working 12, 14 hours instead of 8, 10. How have you guys worked with your teams on that kind of, almost a mental thing while remote?
We continue to assert that we're not asking to break the work-life balance, right? It's that work-life balance was pretty stagnant. It was 8 to 5, and then after 5 was personal time, right? It for the most part. I'm not saying everyone, right? And so we try to remind them that we actually don't need to work in 12 hours a day. You don't need to work 12 hours a day either. Work will be here for you tomorrow, and guess what? It'll be there the next day and the next day, right? And we'll get through it, right? There's that encouragement, there's that empathy, and then just acknowledging that this is challenging, right? If you got to stop and take your dog for a walk and need 15 minutes in between the meeting, let's just set 45-minute meetings instead of hour meetings, right? And just having that dialogue, there's a lot of coaching to directors and managers, letting them know what's acceptable, what's not, what's professional, what's not, coaching through managing staff and situations like that, understanding background noise, digital background, lighting, all kinds of things like that. But ultimately reminding them that there is a work-life balance here. And it's okay to disconnect. The thing that got interesting is sometimes you're going to disconnect at 2 to 3 p.m., which normally we didn't, but we have to now because that's when you have to do the virtual homework or whatever the set of variables is. Maybe mom's on the clock, dad's off the clock, and we got to alternate, right? And just understanding and accepting that as managers and working through that, but at the same time holding people accountable, holding them to the quality of work, and making sure that we're still operating as a business. And it can be done. That's the beautiful thing. We're all here to say it can be done. We're doing it right now. It's fine, but it takes communication, it takes diligence, and it takes understanding.
Great. Yeah, totally agree with that. Love it's that, how do we stay professional, but how do we just assert for our employees that, the work it's already a stressful enough time, right? Family, uneven start to the school year across the country. Some cases it's county by county in certain states. And I think that empathy for employees, and, we would think over here that, having the strong, consideration of what's going on with employees, empathy towards them, that will ultimately, we think, drive through to how the end customer is being treated. You have a good mentality in your service department. You have a good communication experience for them, we would say. So it is nearly at 2:45 p.m. Eastern. So I just want to remind everyone that you can put your questions in our virtual auditorium. So we will give a couple of minutes to let those hopefully enter the queue so we can ask our panelists. Do have one question that came in for Sarah, and it's really about, I think if you don't know much about PR as a practice, you might just think of just press releases. But what are some of the other channels to do that storytelling PR beyond just the wide wire release that I think we're all familiar with?
Yes, actually, the wired release is really, we don't actually recommend a wired release unless you have a significant news announcement. Like if you have investment where you really want to talk about what that investment has been, or a major new technology upgrade in the platform or something like that. But generally speaking, I think wires have lost their heyday. It's past, because it's really about relationships. I mean, you hire a PR firm for their relationships. And so what we tend to do more than ever is it's more around, you know, the byline articles is one. So, you know, having an opinion on a different topic and actually crafting that opinion and that pitch to the media on behalf of Rev.io, and then actually writing that 1,200 word article that gets placed in one of their tier 1 publications. That's kind of a pretty everyday thing that we do at Media Frenzy. But you know, PR, the best PR programs are where they correlate a whole different set of variables together. For example, speaker platforms, even like this, you know, finding what are those great speaker platforms that you know your customers are going to be on, especially right now where they've all gone virtual just about. Like, there are more opportunities than we've ever had before. And you know, there's actually a lot of opportunity to be amongst some really great, credible speakers as well, because they're not going anywhere either. Whereas before they'd be on a plane or they'd be in meetings and they didn't have time. Now people have time to commit to speaker platforms, and so there's a lot of them out there. And I would say that's a great way from a PR perspective to really help to drive your narrative and tell your story. Also, like awards as well. Awards is something, you know, when you get an award for solving a problem or meeting the needs of your industry, you know, it says a lot about your business, and it really helps to drive credibility for what you do. So we also encourage awards. But, you know, there's blogs you can do. There's, you know, social media is so important right now, because we all have, I think the statistic we had in our survey came back, I can't remember the actual number, but we have so much more time, obviously, than we did before. We're not commuting. And so we are consuming content. I think it's nearly 50% more content than we used to consume. Because before, when we were traveling in the car, now we have a little bit of time to be on the news channels or be checking the, you know, the Instagram page, whatever that is we like to look at. Reading, you know, any ebooks that we've seen, which is interesting. So, you know, there's a real opportunity right now for brands to, you know, be that value add, get in front of your customer base and help educate and help show them how you can solve problems, because we have time to read it now. You know, before we had a lack of time, and we used the terminology digital exhaust, which meant every brand out there was fueling our digital platforms with so much content. It was like exhaust, nothing stood out. Whereas now we actually have time to consume some of that exhaust, but actually give me compelling content. And so we do a lot of those type of ebooks and white papers, and they are being read. And if they're written well, you know, and you have a really strong story to tell, and see, now is the time. It's like there's been no better time than a brand to tell their story than right now, because we have time to consume it.
Great stuff. Yeah, great stuff. And we can certainly, I think, Rev.io's success in the media and with a true PR strategy for the first time starting in 2020, we can endorse that approach, because we think it's made a difference for us, and allowed us to continue, to your point, to tell a story even as things have been challenging, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we are actually 1 minute over, so I apologize for that, because you know, you stare at a clock all day on your computer and you're conscious of that. But I really want to thank Sarah and Matt, both of you, for being on this panel today, and I also want to thank, of course, everyone who took time to join. We really appreciate you being part of this first summit before the summit. As a reminder, at 3 o'clock, we're going to open our virtual exhibit hall, and we really encourage everyone to please visit our sponsors, GSA, Aver Analytics, SkySwitch, CloudAge, TaxConnect, AMOP, and Wolters Kluwer. And again, I want to thank all of our sponsors for being part of this today. Be sure at the end of your conversation to answer the Rev.io trivia questions, collect your answers. We're going to have the contest in play for those that have all the correct answers to be put in for drawing for a $250 Amazon gift card as part of our happy hour celebration tomorrow afternoon. So again, thank Matt, Sarah, thank you very much. We look forward to seeing everyone in the exhibit hall shortly, and wish everyone have a great rest of the day, and take care. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.